Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitator and coach Betsy McLaughlin as she delves into different areas of your life to get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. Betsy has changed her life by utilizing the tools and techniques she is sharing with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Welcome, everyone, to Imperfect Brilliance. I am Betsy McLaughlin, and I'm super excited that you are here with me today. And this is my premiere launch of Imperfect Brilliance solo. You guys, if you've been listening for any amount of time, you know that Kathy Williams and I have had the show together for many years. And Kathy has chosen to have her own radio show, also on OMTimes, called The Adventures of a Sexy Mom, or something along those lines. I apologize, I don't have it exactly right yet. But you'll be, I'm sure, finding all the information for her show as well. And we had many fun years together, and I wish her all the best. And I'm sure I'll have her on again as a guest. And I'm super, super glad that you guys are here with me today. So before we get started, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information on, well, first of all, our topic today, which is being you. And really, what does that mean? What does that look like? And what if the journey to being the infinite being that you truly are is the greatest adventure that you'll ever go on? And I know for me personally, it's been quite a journey and quite an adventure. And I'm super, super excited to have with me today Sarah Grandinetti. And Sarah is a dear friend of mine, and I am honored to call her my friend and to know her and create with her in the world on many, many levels. And a little bit of information about Sarah. She is the mom of 4 kids. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 kids. She's a brilliant writer and a dynamic facilitator. And if that isn't enough, she also is the co-owner of 2 very successful businesses. One is a Salon Mix, which is a salon in the LA area, California, the United States. And the other one is business with Kathy Summers called Sassy Productions. And Sarah's desire is to inspire and empower people to choose more, actualize their dreams, and know the beauty they are. And so with her work as a stylist, and she's also a certified facilitator, as I am, with Access Consciousness, and we use these tools and questions and techniques that we talk about on the show in our lives pretty much 24/7. There might be times when I don't use them, and then some interesting things will pop up. And so Sarah is here with me today to launch Imperfect Brilliance in its the new era in 2019. And what beauty are you that you've never recognized? So that's one of the things that Sarah also has an amazing program on, actually on Facebook. There's a great group, and it's called I Am Beauty. And it encourages people to see their beauty. So I've done a lot of talking, and I'm just want to stop talking for a few moments and say, welcome, Sarah, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Betsy, I am so excited to be on your debut with you. And how fitting is it that we're talking about being you on your like solo launch? This is so awesome. I'm so grateful that you invited me.
Oh, thank you so much. So would you tell our listeners a little bit about your journey as to, what being you, what the adventure of being you, and what does that even mean for you?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we all know what it looks like to try to get it right. We often grow up with like even just this is right, this is wrong reality. So our parents are doing their best. They're trying to show us, from a moral standard, this is what you have to choose. And this is, what will get you judged as, good and right in the world. And a lot of times what happens is we buy these points of view, we buy these like ways of being from whatever they bought when they were growing up from their parents and so on and so forth. And it's not just our parents, it's also the world. It's society's images of beauty. It's society's idea of what a successful life looks like. And so here we are, going along, thinking we're being us. And one day you hit you're like, but I did this. Like, wait, like they call me Sarah. I'm walking, breathing. And so I'm being me, right? And that's just not what it is. And what's really cool about these tools that came from Dr. Dane Here's book, Being You, Changing the World, that Betsy and I both facilitate, is that it really starts to get you just to ask questions. Like, do I want to be in a relationship? Do I want this job that my parents always told me that I should have? Do I require, this amount of money? Or could I be doing something that maybe doesn't make as much money, but I'm so happy doing that it never feels like work? You just start to ask questions and unlock the places that kind of stop you from really getting to that core of who you be. And the magic that starts to unfold is actually the adventure that you're talking about. Like it's so much fun because every time you like turn a corner, it's like, oh, that's so cool and so much easier. And life just starts to show up in these like dynamic ways of like fun. And Dane, and Access and Gary, they always talk about like, what if the purpose of life is to have fun? And that might sound silly or childish or whatever, but when you really look at it, like, do you work to live or do you live to work? So do you go to work to, and that's why you're on the planet? Or do you go to work to make enough money for you to have a fun life, for you to enjoy your life?
I love that question, Sarah, and I'm so glad that you brought it in. And you mentioned the book, and you said it really fast, so I'm just going to repeat it here just in case. And it's Being You, Changing the World by Dr. Dane Heer, Heer. And it is one of I think it might have been the first book that I read as I was introduced to the tools of access consciousness. And it's a fabulous book, and it's also available in audio and a lot of different languages besides English with, I believe Russian is just about to be launched. So it is translated in lots of languages. Super amazing gift. So with one of the things that you mentioned there was what came up for me as you were saying it is for a long time in my life, there were times I would just wake up and I'd be like, oh, it's another day. And I felt like I was a hamster on the hamster wheel, and I was just doing to get through the day. And that's really not a very joyful place to be.
You don't say.
No, right? It's like, oh, it's another day. What am I going to do today? And, when you wake up, and I was in this position, I would wake up and be like, can I call out sick today? When was the last time I had a sick day? What can, and I would go in this whole mind thing of, how do I get out of work? Because I really don't want to go. I don't want to go anywhere and I don't want to do anything. And that kind of over time progressed more and more and more, where I was more and more depressed and didn't want to do all these things. So nowhere in that was I honoring what I really desired to be or do or create in the world. And at that point in time, I felt like I did not have any choice in the matter. Like, this is what I had to do. This is what it was supposed to do. This is what was expected of me. And so because I had that point of view, and I was in that like mindset that there really wasn't anything better, that's what I focused on. So I got more and more and more depressed and sad and withdrawn, and I had all these illnesses that started happening, and I gained a lot of weight, and like all this stuff that was creating kind of externally that was showing me how unhappy I was. So I got to the point where I'm like, if something doesn't change, I'm not sure I want to be here anymore. And that's when I started saying these things. That's where through kind of a journey, I found the tools of access consciousness that really changed my life dynamically. And in that, in choosing, really just learning how to choose things that worked for me. And it didn't have to look like what anybody else's choice looked like.
Exactly. Well, just to build on that, we're also super aware. So if let's just pretend, I don't know numbers, I don't, I haven't done any research, but in my mind, there's like maybe 10% of the population here in the States that are like truly happy. So if we're living life around people in other cubicles, our neighbors, our family, everybody's miserable, everybody hates their job, it's hard to reach for something. Like you're like, someone throw me a lifeline, but everybody else is, reaching for a lifeline too, And so we build this whole, and one of the other things you said about like you were in this point of view that like it's a have to, right? So our point of view creates our reality. And so if we wake up every day and we're just going to work to pay the bills, like who are you honoring? Are you honoring you, or are you honoring your bills? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the vice president or president of, Visa or GM Motors is not going to be speaking at your funeral. Okay. So like he's not going to be like, this person slaved their life away to pay me extra money. He's not. And so basically you are working to pay, like to pay off these bills, pay off these past expenditures, to pay off these things. And they seem more important to you. And the thing is that if you create your own algorithm interrupt by just choosing something different, if today it's not your job, maybe that's too big to look at, but you start to honor your body, you start to honor your time. You look at, what can I do that's fun for me today? Whatever that is, like choose it, and then maybe next week, choose 2 of them. And you start to like unlock this place where you get that joy actually contributes to your life. And then you start to be the change, and you'll start to watch things change around you. Now, some of that change is fun. Some of that change is like, certain like possibilities will show up, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? Because you're finally being that vibration of possibility. And then other change will come, and you'll be like, why doesn't that person want to hang out with me anymore? And you'll have to look at, it's because they like you better miserable. They like you better on a vibration that they can relate to. And so when you start getting happy, things will change, but the greatest thing will change is your whole damn life.
That's so true. And I heard it just quite like the president of the Visa company is not going to be at your funeral. Like, that is so true. Like, and I certainly have put myself in that position many times in my life, where I was so indebted to, this faithless corporation, that had loaned me money, and now I had got to get them paid off. But that just really cracked me up. Thank you for that.
Hey, you're welcome.
And Sarah's a lot of fun, and I love playing with her. And
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Oh, sorry, a little bit of background noise there. What was I going to say? That totally distracted me. So anyhow, you were talking about the how aware we are of everyone around us, and that is such a great point that I'm so glad you brought in, where we are so more aware of people than we ever realize we are. And just to give people an example, so let's say a friend texts you or calls you, and even like the first word out of their mouth, you already know if they're in a good mood, if they're in a bad mood, if they're upset about something, and the same thing even with texts. So you're very aware of energy. Like my son, when he calls me, when he says, "Hi, Mom," I know exactly if he, even if he's calling me to ask me for a favor, or if he's happy, or, so we're so tuned in to people that we've never really acknowledged. So I wonder if in acknowledging the awareness that we have of how much more ease that can contribute to our lives.
Oh, huge. Yeah. Well, because also, if you have any ounce of caring in your world, we've also bought that someone who's like super caring. And if you care for this person, then geez, you should jump to it and go fix their life. So I often look at like the scattering of ants, if you hit the anthill, like they're all just running around crazy. Like I often look at that and I'm like if I'm trying to fix your problem and you're trying to fix your neighbor's problem, and the person, across the street is trying to fix their grandma's problem, and then the grandma, is really worried about the gardener, like everybody's running around chasing problems. And then we have this energy of problem solving and instead of possibility seeking. And so that also is permeating our world because we're aware of all the people seeking problems.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Imperfect Brilliance. We will be back in just a couple minutes.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is New Age Grammy winner Paul Avgerinos. Thanks for listening to OMTimes Radio, and please support my peaceful healing music with a purchase at iTunes, Amazon, or wherever you shop for fine music. Just put my name into the search engine, Paul Avgerinos. A, V like Victor, G like George, E-R-I-N-O-S. You can also visit me at roundskymusic.com. Thanks for listening, and I'm wishing you the brightest of blessings.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to Imperfect Brilliance. I am Betsy McLaughlin. I'm here today with Sarah Grandinetti. And while I'm thinking about it, because we are having so much fun, I would like to take a couple minutes for people to get some information on some of the things that we have talked about. So to find me, you can find me at creatingyumminess.com. I'm also on Facebook, and my email address is nice and easy, accessbetsy, BETSY, @gmail.com. And my last name is spelled a little bit differently, so I'm actually going to spell it for you guys. If you want to find me, it's MCLOUGHLIN. So that's how you can find me, and I've got all kinds of events and classes and things coming up. And I would also like to tell you guys that if you have questions about Access Consciousness, you can go to accessconsciousness.com. And if you're interested in the Being You classes, which Sarah and I both facilitate, we have another license, which is a Being You certified facilitator license. And there's information at beingyouadventures.com. And then, Sarah, if you could tell people how to find you, both for your shop as well as anything else you would like to share with people.
Sure thing. So I finally put up a website, Betsy.
Yay!
Super basic right now, but it's sarahgrandinetti.com, and on there you'll find my Being You classes. The next one coming up is March 9th and 10th in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm super excited about that class. And then you can also find me on Facebook, Sarah Grandinetti, and also the Sassy Productions or the I Am Beauty movement, which we're launching a new 30-day challenge to look at all things beauty and to encourage people to claim their brand of beauty on March 1st. So if you're hearing this live, get in that group, I Am Beauty the Movement, or it's actually hashtag I Am Beauty the Movement, and come play with us.
It's a wonderful, wonderful group. And also, if you could spell your last name, just in case people are wondering.
Sure thing. Yeah, it's Grand, like the piano, Grandinetti.
Awesome. Thank you. So lots of ways, and she's on Facebook as well, so there's lots of ways to find both of us. And I wonder, so now, where would the conversation of Being You like to go?
Where would it like to go?
Yeah, one of
what
the
are your
things
favorite
that was
tools?
popping in. Yes. So what was popping in as I asked that question is, so, in our first segment, we talked about how much, how aware we are of other people, or, if you feel like you're in the hamster wheel of life, and how in the world do you possibly get out of that? Because that's all we've ever, for most of us, not everybody, but for a lot of us, that's all we've ever known, and didn't really know that there were other options available. Certainly for me, my father was like that, and then my mother, they didn't feel like they had choices. So one of the things that we talk about a lot with Access Consciousness is questions, and questions will empower you. So I'm wondering, and it's the purpose of them is to ask the question and not to have the answer. So a question empowers, and an answer disempowers. And that right there is very different from everything we've learned, because you're supposed to always have an answer for everything. Oh, and right before the break,
Right.
you had started to talk about, if we have a problem and we're supposed to solve it, whether it's a problem for us or that we see somebody else has a problem. So we want to, jump right in and be the rescuer and solve whatever problem we see, putting on our tool belts and solving it. So with all of that, what questions can we ask to really start opening the door to empowering you to ask questions and see that there are other possibilities available to you? So if you would share with everyone, Sarah, what are some of your favorite questions that you ask?
Sure, I'd love to. If you don't mind, first, what I'd love to also make your listeners aware of or bring them to is that if you were somebody like myself who prided themselves on being a problem solver, you will probably more than likely find yourself listening to this interview and being able to count on both hands how many people in your life bring you all their problems. And you have somehow bought and taken pride in the fact that you are the go-to person and that you make everybody feel better because you can solve problems. But the thing that creates in your life is that you have to keep finding problems to solve. You can never just have ease. I know when I got out of that routine, that hamster wheel, if you will, of being a problem solver, it was so vulnerable, Betsy, because I was like, but who am I if I'm not solving everybody's problems? Who am I? Like, I would get up and the energy of ease with my life was so weird. And so, like, that's another thing that you have to start to, like, look at is, like, okay, cool. Like, do I want to be a problem solver, a possibility seeker? So now I get up every day and I'm like, what next? What can I create now? Who do I get to talk to today? And I'm so grateful for the life that I've created, even without, like, using the tools. Like, somehow I was able to, like, find my way with some sort of, instead of a weed whacker, I might have had some kitchen shears, but I was finding my way somehow because I created a pretty awesome life. But I was still this problem solver for myself and for people around me. So one of the questions, to answer your question, one of the questions I absolutely love and I use a lot now is just the question of, like, if I were truly being me here, what would I choose? If I were truly being me here, what would I be? How would I be? And get to the space of me in any situation that I'm like struggling with or having, like, energies come up that, like, aren't comfortable or whatever. I have to ask, like, if I were truly honoring me here, what would I choose? And again, like Betsy said, it's not about finding the answer. You're not looking for, like, ding, 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 this is the one, because we do live in an either or universe. We live in an A or B. And if you're really lucky and your parents gave you a ton of possibility, you might have a C. But it's A, B, or C. And yet there are infinite possibilities for choice in between all of those that we just aren't, like, entrained to look for. So if you're looking for the answer, generally you're going to funnel it down into microscopic possibilities in relation to what's actually possible for you to choose.
God, yes. So there was so much in what you just said, Sarah. And are you a problem solver or a possibility seeker? And I too was a problem solver, and I actually, like, wore it as a badge of honor that I was able to solve
totally
problems.
right.
Right? The problem, bring it to me. Let's solve it. And then I would wonder why everybody was bringing me their problems and their tales of woe, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it can consume you, and it certainly consumed me. And it was like, okay, and then when I realized that it was not my job to solve everybody's problem. I am happy to contribute, and, like, if they want to come and we can ask questions, and I'm happy to facilitate people, and I know you are as well, but we have fired ourselves from the job of being the world's problem solvers.
Absolutely.
Right?
I took those walking papers gladly once I realized how much they contributed to my life.
Oh my gosh. And it really gave me so much freedom, as you talked about too. And so much more time to create things that actually are enjoyable in my life. And the other question that you asked that I'd like to go a little bit more information on is, if I were truly being me, what would I choose? Because I can, tap into the energy of some of the people listening where they're like, well, I have no idea who I am, or what does that look like, or I have no idea how to go about being that or choosing that for myself. So again, like Sarah said, is you start asking these questions and you're actually putting it out to the universe and not expecting an answer, because and I know this is true for me. If I ask a question and I think I know how it's going to show up, maybe once out of 1,000 times it actually shows up the way I think it will, and the rest of the time it's totally different. And I actually love that now. At first, it was kind of like when I realized that it just does not show up how you think it will. And what if how it shows up is something far greater than anything you can even imagine?
If you have a second for me to tell you a quick little story.
Yes, please.
When I finally got this, it was like earth-shattering, life-rocking, like all the things. It's what got me off the damn hamster wheel. So I live in a area called Burbank, California, just north of Los Angeles. And I used to live in an area that I didn't really love living in, above Burbank. So I would drive through Burbank every day and look up at this hill with these beautiful homes, and I would say to the universe, what would it take to live up there? And if I had my points of view in place on how it had to show up, I would have had to save up, $2 million for that home. I would have had to, work my tail off. I would have had all the things, right?
Right.
And basically what happened was something that in the moment felt like the worst thing that could happen short of one of my children dying, was that they got kicked out of their private school because I complained about a teacher who was doing some things they shouldn't have been doing. And so the school got mad at me, didn't want me around, so they kicked all 4 of my kids out of school, and abruptly. So, yeah, my kids did not get to say bye to their teachers. They didn't get to say bye to their friends. They didn't get to empty their lockers.
Wow.
They were heartbroken. So I have 4 kids heartbroken in my home, and basically only myself to blame at the moment, right? Well, what ends up happening is, where I lived and owned a home, my husband and I were not willing to put our kids into the public school system in that area. So we started looking around for what neighborhood has the best public school systems, because we did not want to go back to private school because of this being a possibility that someone could just get a whim or whatever up their tailpipe and then decide that you can just throw kids out of school for no reason. They were all upstanding, great kids, great students, right? So anyway, so what ends up happening is we put our house up for rent, and we find that the city of Burbank has the best school district around, and we end up going up to the top of that hill and finding a home to move into, all in a matter of a couple of weeks. And now I live exactly where I wanted to live 7 years ago, it might even be more than that now, that I would drive by every day and say, someday I'm going to be on that hill. But if I had chronologically put that in order in the way this reality would have told me, it would not have shown up this way. It just wouldn't, but I was so willing to ask and just see what's possible.
Yeah.
And my life and living has changed so much. When you love where you live, it changes so much, It
really
just
does.
started to give me, that energy of possibility. But you can't go into the how. If you're on the hamster wheel and you want off really, really bad, if you've decided you've got to wait for the hamster wheel to slow down, meanwhile you're still running, by the way. And if you know how a hamster wheel works, if you're still running, it's still moving. And you've decided, and concluded that the hamster wheel must stop abruptly so you can exit quietly and, off to another possibility. It doesn't work that way. So it might be that, someone comes by and shakes your wheel. It might be that you fall off and, stub a toe. It might be something that doesn't exactly show up the way that you've decided, but it could be the greatest gift that has ever happened.
Such a wonderful story and such a great example of asking questions and just kind of getting out of the way and allowing everything to line up, and have the universe answer you. And if you had thought, never in a million years would you have said, well, I'm going to get to this house by having all my kids get thrown out of a school because I made somebody mad.
Right. And I wouldn't have chosen it though, Betsy, especially not then. I would not have just woken up one day and say, let's move to Burbank and let's put our house up for rent that we paid all this money for and, redecorated and all the things. Let's do that today. I didn't have the courage in my world at the time. So I wouldn't have chosen it. I was still been there if the universe didn't come in and say, okay, Sarah, you've been asking me for this. Here's how it's going to go down. And I remember that all the time now. Anytime something happens that's crunchy and uncomfortable and painful at times, if you buy into the feelings, and you're going through all this sticky times, I have to always go back to that and remember what is unfolding here. What is not breaking apart, but falling perfectly into place exactly towards my ask. And that calms me every time. I'm willing to trust the universe every time now.
Yes. Well, and it's how is the universe realigning to answer your request? And it's such a beautiful, beautiful example. And for me, too, I used to walk into my townhouse. I was in a townhouse for a long time. And I'd walk in there and say, and I loved it. And it was, we were ready to move. And I would walk in and say, God, I'm never moving from here. And then I heard myself one day and I was like, oh my God, if I keep saying that, that's exactly what I'm going to create. Because I had the point of view that I didn't have enough money to buy a house and I was stuck in this townhouse. So I had made it as beautiful and as wonderful as everything. And we had some neighbors that were not fun and joyful to be around. We wanted to move. So when I heard myself say that, I was like, oh, I have to stop saying that. And then I started asking questions, and I'll tell you the rest of the story after the break. You guys are listening to Imperfect Brilliance. Stay tuned. We'll be back just a couple minutes with our special guest, Sarah Grandinetti, today. Thank you.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Hi, this is recording artist and composer Yuval Ran, inviting you to a voyage through the chakras, a new double album of guided meditations to transform your life, a sublime musical medicine for nourishing inner peace and reaching to your higher virtues. Get it now at metamindfulnessmusic.com. METTA mindfulnessmusic.com.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance. I am your host, Betsy McLaughlin, here with Sarah Grandinetti today, and we are talking about a wonderful, joyful subject, and that is really the adventure of being you. And Sarah and I are both certified facilitators with Access Consciousness, as well as Being You adventure facilitators. So we teach and we dive in way deeper than we're talking today about some of these ideas about what does it really mean to be you, and what does that look like? And for me, Sarah, I know for a long time, I didn't even give myself permission to know what that is. But I guess before we dive into that, in case anybody's like, well, wait a minute, finish talking about what happened with your decision about your townhouse. So I realized that I was never going to leave as long as I had that point of view. I had slammed shut every door, every window. I had, probably 7 million steel walls that I had erected around my point of view and my idea that I was never going to be able to create the money to move. And I had made it very, very linear. So I'm so grateful that I learned all of the wonderful tools and questions from Access, and I started saying, I wonder what else is possible. I wonder what could be created here. And then I just kept asking questions. And if I found myself having that point of view again of like, oh my God, I can never move, I quickly ran the clearing statement, which is a wonderful tool to clear stuck energies. And you can find more information about it if you're interested at theclearingstatement.com. So between the clearing statement and asking questions, and I was like, what else is possible is one of my favorite questions. What else is truly possible here? And literally all these things unfolded in front of me, including finding a lender that was willing to work with a self-employed person. And from the time frame that I realized and started asking questions, realized what I was doing to shut down any possibilities, to asking questions, we found a house that we really just loved. And I went to a space for a little bit of like, oh my God, it's way more money than I'm used to paying. And then I realized again that I was doubting a lot of things. So I started asking more questions. And long story short, in all of that, I found a house. I put my townhouse on the market and moved in to my new house that has some space around it in the space of 6 weeks. And it was so magical and I, again, could never have predicted that all of these things would fall into place the way they did. So I am also a huge fan of asking questions, and when I have a point of view and realize that I am sticking myself and not allowing possibilities to present themselves and sometimes it can even be like a little whisper, and you follow the whispers, or you could say like little breadcrumbs or something, and you follow that, and it might not make any logical sense, and you just go with it. And then something unfolds, and you may meet a person, or it could be a situation or whatever, like you pick up a piece of paper that has somebody's name that may connect you to something. You just never know. But if you're willing to follow the awarenesses that you get, the tickles of the universe, and then what unfolds is truly magical. And we're so happy too, like you are, Sarah, to be in the house that we're in. And I stopped doubting that I could not create the money to pay the higher mortgage payment. And I'm always asking what else is possible and how many other ways can money show up in my life. And asking these questions has totally changed my reality.
Yeah, I would add to that. When we had our mortgage payment, we were like in a house that we didn't love, in an area we didn't love, that didn't light us up and didn't like push us to create our life. We were like paycheck to paycheck. We were always scraping by. And the minute that this showed up, it was a huge leap. It was double our mortgage payment. So can you imagine, like two people with 4 kids who can barely make their mortgage payment are going to move into a house that requires double the amount? Like, it was the biggest leap ever. And now, not only do we pay our mortgage here, which is double, but we have money left over for savings every month. Like, what? It makes no logical sense at all.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And that's a great thing. And I'm so glad we're bringing this into the conversation today, because the logic, that was the other thing, along with being a problem solver. I was always very logical.
Are you a logic addict?
Right? I certainly was. And so it had to fit kind of in my equation, right? And I get part of that is also just being the problem solver. Like you're going to have your equations and you're going to have your solutions. And so
you get really good at foreseeing the problems too. So you create them before they're even at your doorstep. We're really cute that way.
Very, very cute. Maybe not the brightest choice, and like all of it got me to where I am today, and I know it did for you as well. And so I'm grateful for the journey. And so with that, right, if you're willing to ride the ride of the universe and get out of like the logic, and you think, but A plus B equals C, all the things that Sarah and I just talked about would not have happened. So it's like being willing to have some chaos in your life, and that it's not all going to be order or make sense or be logical.
Yeah, and if you're doing what we just said, is like you're foreseeing the problem. You bought somewhere that is protection. I know I did that. Like, I will be protected if I can foresee the problem coming down the hill.
Oh my gosh.
Then I can protect myself. But what happens is, if you look back over your life, how well have you actually protected yourself? Because protection is actually a big fat lie. None of us can protect ourselves from anything, but we think that if we can foresee the problem, then we'll brace ourselves. And you guys know the energy of brace. Like, if you've ever been in a car accident that you saw like coming like moments before, and you braced yourself, your body stretches out, you tighten up, and then you brace for impact, right? But if you're always foreseeing the problem, you're always bracing for impact. So how much expansion and creation and generation can you have in your life if you're always, your whole life, in this analogy, is bracing for impact and tense? You can't invite more in. Your hands are grabbing the steering wheel. Your hands are grabbing the oh shit handle. Am I allowed to say that? Right? Like, so you're grabbing onto anything around you to brace for something that hasn't even happened yet. And then you're like, oh my gosh, how come I can't invite more in? Well, you don't have room, my friend. You don't have room. You are too busy waiting for the problem that hasn't even shown up yet. And now when problems show up, it's like, oh, look, there's a little fire in the corner. Let me toss some, a cup of water on it. It's not the creation of your life.
And it doesn't stop you. That was the other thing too. Like, if I would have something that was a big problem, like everything would stop and freeze. And along with what you said about the bracing, it also impacts you physically. So not only are you, bracing for the worst, but it impacts your body as well. And so I know now, like, a lot of the things that occurred in my life before with the illnesses and the terrible body pains and all of the things that I was experiencing a lot of that is exactly what you're just talking about, Sarah. And I do want to take a moment before we talk anymore to let everybody know, invite you guys to a new project that the Being You team has created. And we're really, really excited about it. And it is going to be in the Year of Being You Facebook group, which is, anybody is welcome to join. And it really does talk about being you. And what is that? What does that mean? You can go in there and ask questions, and it's totally an open forum. And so what we're adding to it, and I will let Sarah talk a little bit more about this, she is going to be the host of a show that we're going to actually debut February 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific time in that Facebook group. So can you tell us a little bit more about this fun adventure that we're all going on?
Oh my gosh, I would love to. So
yay.
So there are almost 100, there might be more now, don't quote me on the number, but Being You certified facilitators around the world, and we are all on a thread together. And it's one of my my favorite threads to go in, because all of these people are acknowledging one another constantly and sharing stories of magic, sharing stories of where they asked a question and changed an outcome, sharing stories of where they found the beauty in the air quotes, because you can't see me because we're on the radio, problems, right? Where they where they're creating their lives and creating change in the world. And so we're always in there talking. And my first guest, her name is Doris, and she's a Being You certified facilitator from Europe. And she actually brought up, she's like, where can we start sharing these conversations that we have out in the world more? So the way that the Access Consciousness team creates is incredible, because we all launched off into another thread. Okay, what do we want to create here? What does this look like? Started asking questions, playing around, and what we came up with was a weekly Being You adventure show that's going to be on Facebook Live. And we're changing the times each month to incorporate everybody around the world. So this whole month it'll be on I believe it's all Mondays at 9 a.m. starting February 4th. And we're just going to go live in that Year of Being You group. There's about 15,000 people in there. And we're just going to talk about these stories of being you, just to get people more comfortable with what that looks like, what the tools are. And when we say tools, it's just being willing to ask a question. I was late for a flight, so late for a flight. They were already boarding the other day. And I said, what else is possible? And I asked a couple of questions about the woman behind the counter. And now she didn't grab onto it, but the person next to her did. And she jumped in and created a possibility, a solution for me that got me on that plane with my luggage. And that is what using the tools are. It's showing up, while your flight is boarding, and saying what else is possible, a tool, a question, and creating a different outcome than just buying this reality as there's no possibility. So we're going to be sharing stories of change on this show every week, and it'll just go until basically it's, we're going to follow the energy, basically. They might be 15 minutes, they might be 30 minutes, we might go for an hour, just dependent on, what we have to talk about. And you can join that group, just put a request in called The Year of Being You on Facebook. And then we're going to also, be directing people to play more in the Adventure of Being You Facebook page, which is where all the certified facilitators get to celebrate their classes and stuff like that too. So I'm super excited about the creation. So grateful for everybody who came together to create it.
It's so fun. And that's one of the things, the magic when you get together and you're creating something from the space of joy and possibility. And when we started talking about, we had no idea what we desired to do. And it was, Doris asking a question, hey, what can we create here? And the next thing you know, this show launched, and it really was a very fast creation. And then it's boom, 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 all the pieces are in place, and we're launching soon. And it's just going to be so much fun to be able to interact with people and let them ask questions on the Facebook Live and, watch it later. So I'm super excited, and I can't wait to see what's created and where we go. And we just have a couple of minutes left. I can't believe how fast this hour went. Oh my gosh, Sarah. And I do want to just take a moment to say thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me today. I'm so grateful for that.
I'm so grateful for you and all that you're creating in the world and the leaps that you're making. And one of the things I love about you, Betsy, is that you always exude an amount of joy. And even when things are rocky, things are rough, it's like, hey, I still have me. And I'm just so grateful to know you and know that you're out creating change in the world with this show and all the other things you have your hands in. I'm just always so excited to see your face.
Oh my gosh. Well, that just brought me to tears. Thank you so much for that. Wow. That was unexpected, and thank you. And so you guys, what questions can you ask, and what possibilities could you create by being a possibility seeker? And are you willing to hang up your tool belt of having to solve everybody's problem and actually ask what works for you? And thank you so much for listening to Imperfect Brilliance. So grateful you're here. And thank you once again, Sarah, for joining me on my premiere launch.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful week. Tune in again next week. We'll be here. Bye-bye.